In an about turn, John Steenhuisen has decided to bow out as Democratic Alliance leader, leaving the party's upcoming elective Congress all the more intriguing. We take stock of Steenhuisen's tenure with News 24 investigations editor Pieter du Toit.
So it's undoubtedly true that the DA's role in the GNU under the leadership of John Steenhuisen has had positive dividends for all South Africans, not least the ANC.
And assess Steenhuisen's potential successors with journalist Velani Ludidi next.
Obviously, JP Smith is also on the head, but I don't see him becoming mayor of Cape Town. I do believe that his name might be thrown around, but he would support someone like a Zantia Limbeck to actually become mayoral candidate. Also, there is Angus Mackenzie, who is quite charismatic.
Later in our trending topic, top political analyst Daniel Silke keeps the conversation going, weighing in on the major DA development. Finally, a bold attempt to fly from London to Cape Town commenced in 1920 with On This Day in South African History.
To know when the next episode drops, hit the like, follow and subscribe buttons on our YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcast channels.
In Rauby's Pointless Braai quiz today, we ask, who is South Africa's Auditor General? I'll give you the answer at the end of the show. Get it right, you'll score the priceless prize of being the most informed person around the Braai place. My name's Graeme Robenheimer. This is the South African story, and this is The Lead. Moving to our top story today, joining me now for a special roundtable discussion and reaction to John Steenhuisen buying out as Democratic Alliance leaders are investigations editor Pieter du Toit from our Randburg studios, as well as Cape Town-based journalist Velani Ludidi here in the mother city. Of course, Velani initially got tipped off about today's developments happening. A very good day, gentlemen. Veve, here in Cape Town, how are you?
Good, thanks. Weather is a little bit chilly. Looks like winter is creeping in, but yeah, I'm good, thanks. And how are you guys?
Good, Peter. Thanks for joining the discussion. I know there's hectic deadlines at the moment.
It's a great pleasure, Graeme, and it's one of those politics days that we as journalists enjoy. When Velani got that tip the day before yesterday, I think the adrenaline rush really started, and I think it was a big moment in South African politics, and is going to lead to certainly a realignment in the DA.
Absolutely. Pieter, let's begin with you. What did you make of John's speech in Durban this morning? He's calling it mission accomplished. He seemingly trumpeted himself as one of the greatest DA leaders on the premise that under his administration or his tenure, he finally got the party into the union buildings in Pretoria, albeit in its unusual, peculiar circumstances of the GNU. Your initial take?
First of all, I thought his speech was bright, breezy, airy, and very positive. I think there was an air of success, certainly, around the press conference. If you look at his, and if we can quickly jump to what his legacy is going to be. Look, I think, and I've written that for News 24 this morning. It is absolutely factually correct that under John Steenhuisen's leadership, the party was able to enter national government, and it became a party of national government. It was given executive responsibilities. It runs a number of ministries, involved in a number of deputy ministries, and that certainly is due to John Steenhuisen's leadership, the fact that he was able to stabilize the party after the 2019 election, that he was able to run quite a coherent election campaign in 2024, which did lead to the recovery of the party from the losses that they suffered in 2019 into a position where they were absolutely essential to the ANC, who dropped from 52 to 40% when they were looking at forming a stable government. So certainly the introduction of the DA into the GNU has led to a turnaround in not only many departments, but it has certainly contributed to foreign investors, for example, recovering their confidence in the South African economy. So it's undoubtedly true that the DA's role in the GNU under the leadership of John Steenhuisen has had positive dividends for all South Africans, not least the ANC.
Yeah, 100%. I want to get you in here, Veve. John's always sort of banged around on this drum that, he inherited a DA at its death's door, essentially. And it's one of the headlines that News 24 also carried at the time that he even referenced in his speech in Durban this morning. What do you make of his tenure? Very difficult to sort of sum up in 2 minutes. But do you agree with what Pieter has shared?
I wouldn't call that he rescued the DA on its knees, but I would call him a stabilizer. I mean, 2019, 2020 was really like turbulent for the DA. Musi Maimane resigned after internal battles over ideology, and I remember him and Mashaba, and then also the party was bleeding metro support. The DA didn't understand his, and it didn't grow to a point where you could point out him as that he saved the DA. He did stabilize it, but the growth in terms of measures, I don't agree that he has done a great job, but he did stabilize the DA. Also, we must remember that with the GNU, the effect of the MK party, it is what led to also partly of the GNU, because it has taken a lot of the vote. We don't know if MK party didn't come into existence, what would have happened to those over 1 million votes that went to them. So I would call him a stabilizer, but not a person who has rescued the DA that was dying.
Yeah, if we look at the history of the DA leader position, Tony Leon's been the longest running DA leader in a democratic dispensation, also the longest running leader of any major opposition bloc within the history of the democratic dispensation. Helen Zille held 2 terms as DA leader. Musi, of course, only held the 1. So John's positioning right now to bow out at this point isn't unusual internally for the DA. It would have been unusual if he did stay on for another 3rd term. But clearly the internal infighting with Deon George, Pieter, we've of course got John wearing this very important critical hat as agriculture minister and taking on the foot and mouth outbreak. What do you make of all the negative headlines that have been swirling around John up until this point? Do you think that has been a major proponent for him to say, look, maybe I should just bow out?
Graeme, look, the reasons for John's decision, Steenhuisen's decision to not contest the DA's leadership and effectively to resign, like you say, are complex. It was a number of factors that were brought to bear at exactly the same time. I would argue that, yes, the Deon George affair around party finances and certainly his personal finances was a catalyst which forced people to start questioning whether or not Steenhuisen can lead the party beyond this year and into the next general election and into the municipal election for that matter. But more importantly, there is a growing feeling in the party that the DA needs to take in a more muscular and a stronger and a more harder pose and posture in national cabinet, excuse me, and in the GNU. For example, there is a strong feeling that John Steenhuisen, as leader of the DA in the GNU, should have come out much stronger around issues, for example, black economic empowerment, which is a policy issue for the DA. That he should have been much stronger and stricter in pushing back, for example, around legislation like the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill. So there is an increasing feeling that, yes, the DA should be part of the GNU, but they should have a much stiffer spine in resisting the ANC and, in fact, challenging the ANC. And then thirdly, the recent response of his department to foot and mouth disease, which has become somewhat of a touch point or a flashpoint rather for the conservative Afrikaans wing of the party and certainly organizations outside of the DA, which has now threatened the party with their support and electoral support, which the DA are deathly scared of losing. So I think those are the 3 main factors, themes or strands which came to a head and which then forced John to decide to focus on his ministerial job. So it's not one thing, rather it's the convergence of a number of issues which came together at the same time.
Yes, and of course, Pieter so excellently surmised there. Of course, it's that right wing, so to speak, in inverted commas, element of the vote that the DA has been sort of using as its cushion on the bed as to try and boost its electoral support. Of course, in the past, we've seen the Freedom Front Plus as a party eating into those DA white voter constituency. Velani, I would like to bring you in here. It was quite difficult. You and I were chatting in the newsroom. Very difficult to get word from the DA. They've been very cagey in the past, of course, with journalists about what was going on ahead of John's announcement. But you saw the writing on the wall. How was it like trying to get comment from the mayor? I know that you went to a media engagement with the mayor earlier in last week, but he wasn't willing to give much, right?
Yeah, and I got in trouble for actually trying to interview him because that was an off-the-record event. But I mean, this is a big story, so I had to try my luck and ask him. So I got my sources said it's happening. John won't be seeking a re-election, so which is making way for Jordan to actually put his hand up and contest for the leadership position. So I mean, the adrenaline when I got that, and also this is someone who has never misled me, and I was like, no, let me speak with the politics team and say this is what I have, and also try to speak with other DA senior members who didn't want to give me a definite yes, but said no, there have been discussions. But I think the last person who said that, look, the delegation met at the mayor's house at his Edgemead home on Sunday, and they were there to discuss final details of the deal. As we have come to know that what John wants is to keep his ministerial position and continue. But there are questions now. If Jordan does become a mayor and he does become a DA leader, who becomes then the political leader in parliament for the DA, and who's like, how many hats is he going to wear? And so also now in Cape Town, the discussions about who then also replaces the mayor. So it was for me, it was exciting and to break the story and get it right, because I mean, when you get it wrong, you get in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want Pieter shouting over the phone if you do get it wrong. Pieter, how would it, we've been hearing this for the longest time. Jordan Hill-Lewis is the potential front runner to be the new DA leader. Yeah. Then he said, hey, I wouldn't run against John if John would stand for re-election. Now we've got this huge about turn. Yeah. Could you see Jordan in that role? I would see him sort of as potentially a DA parliamentary leader and a DA federal leader at the same time. But then, of course, who gets his position as Cape Town mayor, the DA's legislative sort of stronghold? Your views at this time? I mean, it's all speculation, right?
Graeme, there are so many permutations. I remember very well when I was in Parliament on the press gallery when Tony Leon resigned his position as leader of the DA. There was an interregnum where you had Sandra Botha, who was parliamentary leader. Helen Zille was then Premier of the Western Cape, but she was also party leader, attending caucuses. There was an argument that, no, the national leader should be in Parliament, sitting across from the president as the leader of the opposition, sitting across from Jacob Zuma at that time. Obviously, the situation is a little bit different because the DA is not the official opposition anymore because they're part of governments. They are a party of government. The official opposition is the MK party, which is quite astonishing when you say those words out loud, be that as it may. It will be a challenge. Jordan Hill-Lewis will have to decide what position he's going to take up. Does he want to go into cabinet? Does he want to remain in his position as executive mayor of Cape Town? Does he want to be only DA leader? Now, these are the things that we're going to have to consider and write about going forward, because I think there's a strong argument to be made in all three directions. Yes, it is important for the leader of the party to be in cabinet because that's where executive decisions on national level are made. But there are downsides to it as well. We've seen that with, incidentally, the former leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Pieter Groenewald, who gave up his leadership in favor of Corneille Mulder so that he can focus on correctional services. Exactly the same in theory with John as well. To run a ministry, a department, takes up a hell of a lot of your time. Can you combine that role with a national role? And then thirdly, the executive position of mayor in Cape Town is equally is an equal heavy load as an executive politician. Perhaps it is something to consider for Hill-Lewis if he gets the leadership, which I'm sure we all agree that he is the favorite for, to consider perhaps only being leader of the party, giving strategic direction to the party at various levels of government, giving strategic direction to his deployees, to use that ANC word, in cabinet, so that they execute policy in terms and in line with ANC, with DA ideology and plans. So yes, it's going to be difficult to decide what to do, but the most important thing at this point is to consider and discuss, I suppose, what a Hill Lewis leadership of the DA might look like. And of course, Graeme and Velani, like you know, the DA's Congress only comes around on the 11th and the 12th of April. So there's still a couple of months left, and who knows, maybe Celia Brink or Solly Malatsi might challenge him.
Now here's the interesting part, Pieter, is, you know, I was chatting quickly off record with Velani. We don't know who the DA's Cape Town mayoral candidate will be on paper, in black and white, ahead of the municipal elections, which is, of course, as we understand it, happening after the DA Federal Congress, which is set down, which Pieter just alluded to, in early April. So then that leaves it wide open. Is it a J.P. Smith? Is it a Tertius Simmers that leads the DA as the provincial leader here of their ultimate stronghold, which is the Western Cape? What are your sources telling you, Velani? Can you tell us anything at this stage?
Look, names have been thrown around a lot. Also, I mean, obviously, J.P. Smith is also on the head, but I don't see him becoming mayor of Cape Town. I do believe that his name might be thrown around, but he would support someone like a Zantia Limbeck to actually become mayoral candidate. Also, there is Angus Mackenzie, who's quite charismatic, who people feel like could challenge also getting Mackenzie's charisma, not just in Cape Town, but also in the Western Cape, because
they're not related, eh? Just checking.
Yeah. No, they are not. But the PA has been creeping in and eating the DA's constituencies across the province. Also, which is one of the concerns which my sources have been telling me that Jordan Hill Lewis raised about taking up this job, is that, look, the BA is coming at us. We need to secure a decisive victory, and also we need to touch base. And also, Tertius Simmers might also be one of the people who might throw his name on the head and become a mayor candidate. They are announcing mayor candidates for certain municipalities on Thursday, but they will not mention the big metros. So those are the names. Also, Andrews, who's the current deputy mayor currently, I wouldn't also rule out Grant, because Grant has big support within the DA branches. So it might be another name that might be thrown in. So those are the people who are currently being discussed right now. But also, to agree with Pieter, but I don't think that if Jordan Hill Lewis becomes leader of the DA, he will want to have this load of running the city of Cape Town and also being party leader. I mean, this is one of the issues that led to John Steenhuisen not seeking re-election, because the two positions he was holding are big, and also they require his full attention. Helen Zille, again, she had to leave politics to focus on Joburg, because she knows that all these positions can't be occupied on the same time. So it will be interesting going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We're sort of ending off, Pieter, and I just want to throw it back to you and spitball for just 2 seconds. Say, for example, Jordan Hill Lewis then becomes, DA leader, and say, for example, the analysis from thinkers like Daniel Silke, which is a strong DA political analyst. He always sort of looks at the party quite critically, and he makes the argument that in future the DA leader should not hold the GNU executive role. But I always think of it like this. If you don't go outside and smoke with your colleagues, you miss out on the gossip. And if the DA doesn't have someone senior within those cabinet discussions, they're sort of like left out in the cold. But in the same breath, a new DA leader would also want to perhaps reshuffle the DA ministerial positions. It's very interesting, the possibilities that lie ahead of us. Yeah,
it is, Graeme. But if I were a betting man, which I'm not, and you were to hold a gun against my head, which I'm sure you won't, I would say that Hill Lewis, if he wins the DA's leadership, will go into cabinet. I think there is a strong feeling, as I said earlier, that the DA needs to play much more, and the word that was used towards me was a more muscular and a stronger and a harder role. They need a harder edge in cabinet, and that would be the mandate given to Hill Lewis from his party should he win the leadership. They want a person in cabinet that can challenge the president, that can challenge policy, that is unafraid, not saying that John was, because he had to navigate a tricky and a new dynamic within cabinet, but I think, the first stage or the first step of the DA's participation in national government is now done and dusted with. We're now moving on towards the second stage of their participation. And for that, they need someone like Hill Lewis, and I think that's why they want him to go into cabinet, lead the DA component of cabinet, and to challenge policies that go against the grain of DA policies. That's what they want, and I think that's what Hill Lewis will do in the end. If I were a betting man, and again, to mangle a number of analogies, if you were going to put a gun against my head.
Absolutely.
Can I add something?
Yes, of course, Veve, go for it.
The other interesting aspect of this is, even though there's interest in Jordan leading the DA, my best bet is that if John wanted to seek re-election, he would have won. Why I'm saying this? He has worked the ground, he has canvassed, he's familiar with all these structures, and Jordan is only popular in Western Cape circles. So with politics, you had to canvass, you had to convince branches, you had to speak with other provinces and stuff like that. So I don't think, given the time, it's how many months now until the Congress, he wouldn't have that enough time to actually canvass and sell his idea. And so I think John would have won it if he had put his head on the block and said, look, I know people want me gone, but I'm seeking re-election, so let's meet on the ballot in the coming months.
Yeah, so in other words, could we perhaps see John standing behind Jordan for his candidate campaign in the next coming weeks? We've seen social media messages exchanged between the two, and Jordan saying, he backs, basically saying hashtag thank you, John. So perhaps, John comes back and, boosts Jordan's campaign. Maybe that will give him the boost he needs by going out and meeting all of those constituencies, right? And then getting the votes that he requires. Pieter, I want to give you the final word, and I'll come back to Veve to get his final take. In one word, Steenhuisen's tenure as DA leader will be characterized as?
Solid.
Veve?
Stabilizer. He stabilized the party. I don't think he was followed by many scandals. I don't think he was a good leader. And also, I don't think he was a good person as a person. So I would say he stabilized the party, but he was not a brilliant leader. Looking at the people before him, I would even rate Musa Maimane above him. He was, he was just a stabilizer. I wouldn't sing his praises.
That's 100 words, Velani, not one. So we've got solid from Pieter, we've got stabilizer from Veve. Gentlemen, Kosekakulu, Danki, thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for bringing your wisdom, your insights, your sources, your knowledge to this very important discussion. What an interesting time and what a hectic year for politics. Thanks so much, Pieter. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Veve.
All right. Thank you so much, Graeme.
Trending topic.
Our trending topic for today is a little bit more unusual. We're sticking with the reaction to John Steenhuisen's departure as Democratic Alliance leader. Well-known political analyst Daniel Silke contests that whoever succeeds Steenhuisen should consider keeping their job simple in future.
It was always going to be tough for the DA to operate under these circumstances. I don't think the initial deal in which the DA secured the number of executive positions that it did was particularly favorable to the DA. It left the DA in what I would call relatively sort of minor position, more so than what it should have negotiated. This made it difficult for the DA to make a substantive impact within the GNU, and it left some of those key issues wide open, particularly on foreign policy, for the ANC to pursue. So I think that the DA also negotiated what I would regard as a weaker than expected deal. It therefore laid a difficult foundation for Steenhuisen to really provide that necessary opposition And ultimately, in a sense, a fair amount of DA thinking and philosophy has got lost over the GNU process. It's been subsumed by and large by sort of greater efficiencies and bringing stability to governance rather than changing the philosophical and ideological aspects of policy. And I think that has been, the main drawback to the DA's participation within the GNU. It needs to philosophically and ideologically be much more combative within the GNU itself. And if it is going to take that route, which I think would be good for the party, it may certainly create additional tensions in the GNU.
Thanks so much to Silke for his take as he is about to embark on a flight. What say you? I want to hear from you. Drop us a comment below.
And finally
on this day in South African history, the 4th of February 1920. Well, on this very day, a bold private attempt was launched to open an air route between London and Cape Town. Just think about that, in the year 1920. Of course, this was a time when long-distance flight was still pretty much in the military arena and not necessarily a civilian venture. British authorities were initially skeptical, even though World War I had rapidly advanced aircraft technology. The expedition struggled from the start, though, with all 4 original aircraft eventually crashing somewhere over Africa. 2 South African pilots, however, Lieutenant Colonel Pierre van Reineveld, as well as Captain Quinton Brandt, pushed on, replacing 1 aircraft and even borrowing another one from the South African Air Force to complete the journey. They did so to Cape Town, marking an early milestone in long-distance aviation. These days, as of early 2026, there are some 75 flights between London and Cape Town every week. Oh, how far we've come. In Rauby's Pointless Braai quiz for today, we asked, who's our Auditor General? Well, it's another easy quiz for you for today. It's Tsakani Maluleka, of course. She's been in that position for quite a while now. She plays a rather major role in keeping an eye on the finances of government, especially municipalities, and especially lesser-known municipalities that often aren't in the media's headlines. She's warned, though, at a recent FW de Klerk Foundation talk that coalition instability has the potential to kill off the country's councils, with only 41 out of our 257 municipalities gaining clean financial audits in the last financial year. My question at the top of mind is, when is this ticking time bomb gonna go off? Well, if this was your answer all along, congratulations. You scored the priceless prize of being the most informed person around the Braai place. What did you think of today's show? Give us a comment below. Give us a like and subscribe. We'd very much appreciate it on wherever you get your podcasts. That's Spotify, Apple, YouTube, as well as Iono. Got one more edition this week. What a news week it's been. My name's Graeme, and so long as there's trusted news first, we'll always have the lead on News 24.